Well, what I wanted really is to pick up a small point of what Sally said, because it seems to me, in the second part, because it seems to me to imply some general problems about the stability of society, and also to connect itself with what Gellner was saying in his last remark. It's obvious that in Athenian democracy, when you voted war, you certainly voted to create an income to the demos, but also, equally obviously, you voted to create a certain number of dead people or a certain number of prisoners by decree. Now, there is here, I mean, an obvious distinction in Greece. In the 6th and the 5th century, or the great parties of the 6th and the 5th century BC, you more or less imply that by doing that, you would not put in jeopardy the state as a whole, that is, that the society as a whole would not be affected. I mean, you would have a certain number of individual deaths, which you could not, of course, mention before the names beforehand, but I mean, nothing more than that would happen. What, of course, the people discovered in the Peloponnesian War was that there was a danger of going back to the situation which was quite normal in previous times, say, when the Messenians were transformed into heroes by the Spartans, that you would have collective death or collective slavery. That is, that there are certain points in society in which you make decisions in which the whole stability of the society, or in fact, the whole life of the society, I mean, as a collection of individuals, is at stake. And that was, of course, the normal situation in Assyria, or to a certain extent in Israel in the earlier period. Now, the point about this is that you have a certain type of decision in these cases which affects the whole life of the society, which seems to be taken, when that happens, in the most, looking in Weberian terms, the most unrational ways. That is, I can see, for instance, in Athens themselves, with the Athenians themselves, but we could see that in other societies, say, what the Jews decided in 70 AD, I mean, to take decisions which obviously have as a consequence only the destruction of your society, or even the collective death of a very considerable number of the members of your society. Now, what I wanted to ask is just that. I mean, what is our consequence in the analysis of stability of society if you have to make a distinction between decisions which fundamentally do not affect, at least in the mind of the people who are taking them, the stability of the society itself. On the contrary, other decisions which quite clearly, in the minds of the people who are taking them, affect the stability of the society and indeed the life of the society.
If you want to answer that, or shall I ask Maurice to make the next point?
Well, I would have thought that what happened in the late 5th century in Athens was that some people in the society thought that the decisions being taken affected the stability of the society as a whole, and others didn't, and that the ones who thought that the stability of the society was threatened did in fact take revolutionary steps to overthrow the decision-making process for that reason. But I'm not convinced that all Athenians
yes,
thought.
indeed, I would agree entirely with you in this particular case, but that would seem to me is exactly the type of situation in one has to analyze, in which there are people who think that what you're doing is simply, I mean, to make a slight change in the situation, and there are the people who realize, on the contrary, what you're doing is, I mean, just to put in jeopardy the whole of the society as such. And I mean, this is, of course, the same situation in 70 AD. I mean, there were certainly people who knew that perfectly well or not. But it would seem to me, that, I mean, at least for the period of history which I know, that this type of decision or distinction in the process of decision making is to be made, and is, I mean, concretely is very important between. This is at the conscious level. I mean, then there are, of course, other problems about what happens at an unconscious level. But I'm simply now speaking here, I mean, of what, the more you have the death of life, the decision making, the less reasonable. I mean, in retrospect, people seem to be.